I'm not going to switch it up for you. I'm not going to make you feel comfortable. I'm telling my story.
I've been holding out on this information for so long. I've been keeping it closeted to protect other people's feelings, to, just guard that off and not tell the world. But I realized something. To do God's will means that you're not going to be able to protect people's feelings, and that's okay. You have to be obedient in what God is calling you to do, and God has been laying that on my heart for a long time to tell my testimony, because my testimony may be connected to someone else's breakthrough. Someone else may need to hear my story to keep going, to stay uplifted, to know to never give up, to feel more worthy, to feel more intrigued, to do their purpose. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. So many of you may not know, but I am adopted. I am adopted, and I figured out that I was adopted when I turned 17. When I turned 17, my whole life changed. My whole perspective of living changed, and just who I was as a person, it changed, but it changed for the better. I feel as though I figured out that I was adopted when I was 17 because I was more mature at that age to be able to understand everything that was going on. I feel like if I would have figured out that I was adopted in my adolescence years when I was like 10 or just younger, I don't know how I would have processed that. But I do believe in perfect timing within the Lord. So I feel as though that was perfect timing of God saying, you know what, this is time to reveal this to this child. I'm not going to get into the whole story of how I figured out on this episode, but I will leave some gems and how I'm able to be the woman that I am today from who I came from and what I came from. Like I said, growing up, a lot of people don't know that about me. When I went to school, elementary, middle, high school, a lot of people didn't know that I was adopted, and they still don't know. You know, the people that do know were the people that I initially reached out to and told. But growing up, it was more over like a thing. They don't know, we don't tell them. You get what I'm saying? That's not their business. And I closeted that so much in, and I held that from everybody else. But it was like I was living 3 different lives because I had 3 different families, with my adopted family that I grew up with, my family, my biological family that I'm, now reconnecting with. And then I have a blended family with my biological father. So it's like 3 different worlds all coming together. And it was all kind of cliche because people would be around me once I figured out when I was 17, and they would just see me around my father, and they'll see me around different other people like my biological dad. And they'd be like, so I thought this was your parent, or I thought this was your parent. But in reality, they didn't know my story. And at the time, I wasn't ready to tell. And even when I was ready to tell, I was still trying to hold out from protecting other people's feelings who were involved in it. But I feel like real authenticity comes from when you release those shackles of trying to carry that barrier of everybody else's feelings because they're going through personal situations and they're not ready to explain their story. But I'm not explaining their story. And I'm not going to allow nobody to be a victim in my story. I'm not going to allow nobody to do that because it's my story and it's unique to who I am. And it's made me to who I am today. So why would I hold out on the information? It's just who I am. It's where I came from. But like I said, I figured out when I was 17. And like I said, it was just like 3 different lives. And I'll say this. When I figured out that I was adopted, I was more over heartbroken to the fact that my adopted mom wasn't my real mom. Because I grew up, like from my adolescent years, I grew up around so much love. With my adopted grandparents, with my parents at the time, my adopted parents, who I consider my mom and my dad because they raised me, right? I grew up around so much love. It was so much love, like from my grandparents. Like you would have never thought that I was adopted from how much love I received growing up. And that's why I feel as though I wasn't really heartbroken. I was really heartbroken figuring out that my adopted mom wasn't my real mom. And I kept asking myself why. Like, why wasn't I affected in a negative way that my biological mom wasn't my real mom? And I asked myself that for years and years, and I let it sting in my head. Like, why wasn't I resenting her? Why did I not hate her for not being in my life? And I realized something. God doesn't take away things and people from you so that you just won't have nothing good. God takes away to replace. And I'm not saying that in a way that my adopted parents are better than my biological parents. I'm not saying that. But God removes to replace sometimes. And I feel as though in that situation, I'm blessed. God blessed me with the family that I needed. You get what I'm saying? Even when I hear about stories about how my biological mom was with my biological siblings, it's not in a positive way, moreover, but it's more negative. You get what I'm saying? Because she wasn't the best parent. But I also look at it as way too that this was her first time at life as well. Not validating what she did of giving me up, but at the same time understanding to have grace, you know, because at the same time, God blessed me with a whole nother family that gave me so much love. They drowned me in so much love that I couldn't even see the love that I wasn't receiving. I couldn't even really pay attention to the love that I wasn't receiving because I was receiving so much love. I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful I was able to experience my grandfather, God rest his soul in peace, from my adopted parents. I'm so grateful that I was able to experience my adopted parents, who I consider mom and dad, because I wouldn't want to have it no other way. And even though they're not perfect, right? I feel as though at the same time, no parent is perfect. And, you know, there's some things I have to heal from them as well. But with me saying that, I feel as though that was the family that God knew that I needed. And, so I always consider myself blessed. And I want to tell anybody watching this, if you have a similar story, if you're adopted, or even if you're not adopted and you feel as though, oh, my parents could be better, or whatever the case may be, I feel like they could have been better parents. They could have better habits. That's probably true. But I feel as though we got to learn to appreciate what we have. You know, a lot of times we could be looking at, oh, my real mom not here, my real dad not here. Maybe God was saving you from something, you know. And even too, like I said, when I hear my siblings talk about the things that they endured and what they face from, you know, being involved with my biological mother, I don't know if I could have handled that. And I feel as though I always look at it like a sense of protection. God was saving me from that. And I'm not saying it in a way to where I'm better than my siblings, because I'm not better than nobody, you know. But at the same time, I feel as though when it comes to my calling, when it comes to who I am as a human being, God had to remove me from that to get to who I am today, you know, to shape who I am today. And that doesn't discredit that I didn't go through stuff. I still went through stuff with my adopted parents. There's still things I have to heal from. There's still things that I'm still to this day having to grow from. Even too, you know, just the whole 360, I'm just still having to grow from with that experience as well. But I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful God was able to bless me with a family that I can call, you know, mom and dad, you know. And even too, like my sisters that I grew up around with my adopted family, like we're all a blended family, and I'm appreciative of that. And like I said, I'm appreciative of it too now, because I'm not 17, but I was 17 when I figured out. I'm 24 now, and I was able to venture out. You know, I'm appreciative of my big sister. She was able to bridge a lot of my family together with my biological mom. My biological father, you know, I had people, like, not even just that, my stepmother, she helped bring together our union with my brothers, and even too my stepsister. And I'm just putting titles on it right now so you guys won't get confused in my story, but I'm just appreciative of the people that God used to bring us together as a vessel. And like I said, nobody's perfect. None of my relationships with anybody is perfect. But who am I? You get what I'm to even say that, because I'm not perfect as well neither. But I'm grateful for that, you know, because over time, like I said, sometimes your biological parents may not have the guts, or they may not have what it takes to really bridge a family together, or to really reconcile that relationship with you guys. But I feel as though God uses people as vessels. And it just helps me just understand it more when it comes to real life, because God used my sister as a vessel for me to have better relationships with my biological brothers and sisters. God used my stepmother as a vessel to bridge together that relationship with my biological father. God used and even too, I'll even go a little bit further. God used my adopted mom, in other words, my mom, who I was raised by, to bridge to be a vessel for the family that I have today. And like I said, sometimes the people that you come from, they may not have the gut. They may not have what it takes to really bridge together that family, because they went through so much trauma. They probably still going through spiritual warfare and battling so much stuff in their mind that they can't even see outside of themselves to even help bridge a family together. And I'm grateful God will use his people. He will use his children to bring together people when it's time. And I'm so grateful for that to this day, because I have a beautiful nephew from my older sister, and I feel as though, like, even to my other siblings that I talk to from my biological mom part, like, I don't even know my biological mom. Like, I've seen her one time, and I'm gonna get into that later on down this story, but I don't even know my biological mom. But I'm just so grateful, even to, like, from having a relationship with my biological brother, having siblings on that side of the family that I'm able to merge with and have a relationship and a bond with. I'm so grateful for that, and I don't take that for granted, because like I said, God just will use his children for vessels, and when it's time, it's time. And and, you know, for you to build those relationships. I'm just grateful to be able to have family in different aspects. I look at it in that way. Like, I have a blended family. I have more than one father. I have more than one mother. I have more than one sister. I have bonds everywhere. And I'm just appreciative of that. Family, it's not all the time going to be the people that you share the same bloodline with, the people that you share the same DNA with. Because guess what? A lot of times they'll treat you like trash, even the ones that you don't. But at the same time, I learned that family is the ones that God places in your life. And you guess what? You feel that sisterly bond with that person. You have that strong connection of motherly connection with another woman. You get what I'm saying? It is what it is. And I feel as though God makes no mistakes. When I think about my life, I don't think of it of like, oh, you was just an accident. Regardless of all the stories I was told about how I got here, I don't look at it as if I'm here by accident. I'm here on purpose. You know, when my parents made me, in the process of making me, they had a very toxic relationship at the time. They were young and they were going through their own journeys, and they ended up just having premarital sex. And they had me. You get what I'm saying? And I wasn't even planned. They, in their heads, at the time, I wasn't supposed to be here. But I feel as though everything is such God timings, bro, because now that I'm looking back, I'm understanding that I had to be here. I had to be here. God said, y'all may not have been ready, but she got to be here. She got to be here. She has purpose. She has, a story. There's a testimony. There's so much purpose in this woman. I have to get her here. So regardless if y'all ready, regardless if y'all not ready to be parents, that's not my problem. Regardless if you're going through trauma, that's not my problem. She has to be here. I was not here by accident. And it also helped my thinking in another way as well, because like I said, I don't know my mother from a can of paint. She reached out to me one time prior to, upon figuring out that she was my biological mom. And she basically was letting me know that the odds was against her, and she was going through things personally in her own life to why she couldn't have that relationship with me. And at the time, I came towards her with an open heart. I came towards her with an open heart to understand where she was coming from. And I didn't resent her. But she ended up blocking me further down the line. And when she ended up blocking me, you know, that did kind of sting a little bit, but I didn't let it become part of my character. I didn't let it become part of my character because God has brought me so far. I have came through so much. I have literally became an awesome woman. I'm not perfect, but I literally have evolved in such of a woman that younger me would have been proud for. She would be rooting for me right now. You get what I'm saying? To be so bold and to be so authentic in who she is today, you know. So I'm forever grateful for that, you know. Like I said, we don't have a relationship, but it also helped me think in a way as well too. One day I was sitting down in my living room table, and I just remember having a come into myself moment. And I was thinking, I'm like, man, God is so good. And I was just thinking like, just thinking deeply into who I am and how I got here. And I was just like, man, how did I end up here? Like, how did God place me with this family? How did God know what I needed? You get what I'm saying? That's another reason why I believe God is so much real, because it's like, how did God know I needed this family? How did God know that, hey, I'm going to take you away from this because your calling is attached higher to, you get what I'm saying? Just how did God know that? And that's why I feel like everything happens in due timing. But like I said, I don't have that relationship with my mom. I still don't know my biological mom, but I don't hold any hate against her. I don't resent her. I don't, even though there was negligence there, she wasn't there for me, and she wasn't able to be that role model as a mom, and she wasn't able to be that mom figure. I look at it like this, you know, if my biological mom can hold me in her womb for 9 months, she could have anything could have happened. She could have had a miscarriage. She could have health issues. Anything could have happened. And then she laid on that hospital bed and she gave birth to me. She could have lost her life on that table, and she still went through and had me anyway. I learned to look at it like this. If my own biological mother could not have an emotional connection with me when she was forming me in her womb and she gave birth to me, there's something bigger for me out here. There's a bigger calling for me out here. You get what I'm saying? And God has something greater for me. And it also made me realize as well too that we may come from our parents, but we don't belong to them. And I know a lot of times, like, parents can create these codependent relationships with their children because it's just like, oh, I love you so much, so you belong to me. And you know, it can start bleeding off in other aspects of their lives, so they can start controlling them there. And it's just like, I'm going to protect you from this. I don't want you to do this or this and this and that, because you have formed such a strong connection. You feel as though this is my baby. You get what I'm saying? I don't want nothing bad to happen to my baby, or whatever the case may be. But in reality, we all belong to God. We all belong to God. Like, I always look at that. If I'm adopted and my biological mom could not form that connection with me, I don't even know my biological mother. We belong to God. We belong to God. You get what I'm saying? I feel as though God uses people as vessels to get us here. And with these people, we have experiences, but at the same time, I don't think that God formed these people on earth so that we can have codependent relationships to the point to where we don't even understand who we are, because we're connecting ourselves so much to our parents. Our parents have our own lives. And up under all those titles, parents still have spirits too. They still have things that they're probably dealing with in their mind each and every day. They probably have things that they're going through each and every day of their lives. And I'm not saying that to validate, you know, what they go through. But I'm saying that in a way to help you understand that to not heavily attach yourself to your parent, because it's going to come a time when you're going to have to create your own individuality. You're going to have to separate yourself from who your parent is. You're going to have to separate and understand, all right, who am I outside of my parent and my relationship that I have with my parent? Who did God call me to be? And I think that holds a lot of power. But back to what I was saying, right? I just feel as though we don't belong to our parents. You know, it just helped me understand that. And even if you're watching this too, and if you feel like your parents are just so controlling and they just love you so much too, where it's like they like, oh, you're mine, you belong to me. You belong to God. Because I learned in this life, right, you can lose your parents any day from anything, from any disease, and you still gonna have to keep trucking in this world. You're gonna have to still keep trucking in this world. Like, when you come in this world, even if you came in this world as a twin, when you leave, you're going by yourself. You're going by yourself, and you can't keep holding on to the harbor of, let me try to do this for my parents, or let me try to show up in this way for my parents, or do this thing because my parents don't want to be happy. Your parents have their own lives outside of you. You have your own life outside of your parents. That means that you are your own human being, and you are unique in your own individuality. So I feel as though we should embrace that, you know, and stop carrying so much codependent relationships with our parents. Even if you are a parent watching this, you get what I'm saying? Even if you had a child, I'm not a mom, so I'm not relating on the mom aspect, but just from someone who is adopted and who doesn't even have their biological mom in their life, that helped shape my perspective on understanding that we may be birthed from our biological parents, but we don't belong to them. We don't belong to them. And that even helped shape my personality of who I am today, of why I am so bold, of why I am so confident, because I don't allow myself to fit in the perspective of anybody else's box for me. Like, even if somebody else has a different perspective of me, or they may think I'm crazy, or they just may think, oh, she's not a genuine person. That's their perspective. That doesn't mean I have to show up in that reality. I live with this person each and every day, so I'm able to understand the things that I'm feeling and what I'm going through, and that makes me unique in my own individuality. So I embrace that, and I want to encourage you as well to embrace your individuality outside of your parents, you know. But yeah, that's just that. But like I said, I'm just grateful of it all. I learned to look at it all in a positive perspective, because at the end of the day, man, and this one thing called life, I can't keep, you know, like, and what creates resentment and what creates hate and what creates even too emotional turmoil on your own counterpart is harboring up all those negative feelings. So I hate my mom because they wasn't in my life, or I despise my father because he wasn't there, or he wasn't dependable. You know, I learned to look at it like, I'm not literally giving you passes to play around in my life. I give you grace, but I'm going to remove myself from the situation, because like I said, just from hearing the stories about my mother, my biological mom, about how she wasn't the best parent, about different things that she went through, and just how she just wasn't the best parent. I don't want to really get into that on here, but my siblings that were raised around her, they were warriors for even going through what they went through and even still trying to be positive people. I'm proud of them. I'm proud of them for even just trucking on, and even too going through all of the things that they went through with my biological mom and still breaching out and trying to get that relationship with me as well. I'm so appreciative for my siblings. I'm so appreciative that we crossed paths and God used different people as vessels to to really bring us together, man. Because a lot of times we be looking like, oh, I wish I had a sister, I wish I had a brother, I wish I had this. A lot of those people that you wishing for are right in front of your faces. You just gotta appreciate them. You gotta appreciate the people that God has placed in front of your lives, because there's gonna come a day where you don't have them no more. And then God is gonna say, listen, you wanted a daughter, but I gave you somebody that you could have had that daughter relationship with. You just chose not to. You wanted a sister, but guess what? I brought somebody in your life that tried to love you. Guess what? You avoided it. You wanted a brother, right? But I brought somebody in your life. I let somebody cross in your path that was showing up for you and trying to be your brother, but you disregarded that because they not biological. Biological just is textbook. It's more over like, okay, we share the same bloodline. That means nothing. What means everything is the respect and the foundation that you have with the people who are not even sharing the same bloodline with you. And I think we got to pay attention to how we feel with the people that's in our lives currently. You get what I'm saying? So just trying to build relationships upon that. But even till I take it a little step further, I seen my mom before. I don't want to say I met her, but I seen my mom before. And with me seeing my mom before, it was my biological grandmother's funeral. And at her funeral, I just remember I wanted to go because I never met her before. And I said, I don't want to miss out on her funeral. So I went regardless. I knew I was going to see a lot of my family members there together. And let me say this. I'm adopted, but I'm adopted in the family from another family member. Like my biological mom and my adopted mom are like cousins further down the line. I can't really explain it. But they're like cousins further down the line. So the family is just kind of all blended in together. Like there's people I grew up around that's still family, but like further down the line, right? So back to what I was saying. I went to the funeral of my biological grandmother's funeral. She passed away. And I just remember when I was going, I had a lot of anxiety and I was just like, OMG, I'm going to see my mom. And I don't know what she's going to say. I don't know how this is going to interact. And like I said, prior to seeing her, I already met majority of my siblings through her because God used my older sister as a vessel to bridge us together. So I was like, okay, I'm going to see my siblings, but I know I'm going to see my mom. And I'm going to see my biological aunt, who I've never met in person, and so many others. I met my biological grandmother, so that would have been usual. But everybody else, I was just like, oh, this is going to be a first. So I remember going to the funeral. And upon arriving at the funeral, I was so scared because I went with my adopted mom. But mind you, my adopted mom, she knows everybody because we all related in the family somehow. So I remember going and sitting in the pews. And when I sat in the pews, I knew who my mom was instantly when I seen the back of her head. And I said, OMG, that's my mom. And I didn't say anything. I just sat in the back and I just was a little scared. I'm not going to lie. And I remember the pastor was preaching a message that was so good. And he was just like, you need to work on, make it right with your family. Get right. God is coming back. He was preaching a great message. And I remember like at the end, I was like, everybody should apply this to their lives. You get what I'm saying? So we ended up leaving out. And I was like, dang, I'm going to see her because we got to leave out. We're about to go take the body and put it in the ground. So we left out of the sanctuary. And I remember walking outside and I was seeing different people I had already met. I'm like, hey, just a little shy, hey, walking towards the car. My younger sister from my biological mom's side, she was with my biological mom. She was like, hey, Brianna. And I looked up and I was like, oh, hey. And I spoke. The moment I spoke, my biological mom looked at me. And when she looked at me, she didn't say anything. She looked and she immediately turned her head. And it just felt like something in a movie. Like in the moment, I was just like, why didn't she speak to me? And at that moment, I just started feeling a little sad. So I remember getting in the car and riding with my adopted mom. And she just started telling me the story again, reassuring me that, like she was just telling me, I was asking her questions like, because I was telling her I seen my mom and stuff like that. And she was just telling me how, like, when I was younger, she was like, baby, I'm going to tell you the truth, like she was indecisive about her wanting you. Just giving me the rundown because, like, from my story, everybody would always tell me that you were left out on the porch. Nobody wanted you. There were several times where you left out on the porch. You kept going back and forth to court because your mom's like, okay, I want her. Then she'll get me. Then she'll like, I don't want her no more. So it was just so many times where I was just like, it was so many times where I faced stuff as a toddler and as a newborn to where I wasn't wanted. And all of that bombarded me at that moment. And I remember going to put my grandmother in the ground. And when I went, I said, I'm gonna be bold. I'm gonna go anyway. And when I went, my mom wasn't there. My biological mom wasn't there. And it made me feel some type of way, because I was like, what did I do to these people? Like, what did I do to her so bad for her not to even want to stand in front of my face? But I remember something kept coming across my head, and it was like, people will run from their trauma so much until it's standing right in front of their face, and you got to deal with it. And I just was like, I'm gonna be bold. I'm gonna be bold anyways, and I'm gonna go and see my grandmother get put in the ground. And I did that. And at the time, my aunt, I don't know what it was. My aunt and them wasn't really speaking to me neither. They seen me, they acted like they didn't, but they didn't speak to me. They didn't speak to me, and they just kind of turned the cheek and, just acting like they didn't know who I was. And I'm not gonna lie, it made me feel some type of way. And I said, I'm still gonna be bold, and I'm gonna go out here and see my great-grandmother get put in the, see my great-grandmother get put in the ground. That's who it was, my great-grandmother. And I did that. And I'm sorry, y'all. And I did that, and I remember when I did it, my mother didn't show up. She went home, or wherever she went, she just didn't show up. And to this day, I'm still grateful that I did it, because I learned to realize a lot of times we think that our parents, because they're older, they're gonna have what it takes to mend the relationship. A lot of times it's not going to be that way. And like I said, God used my younger siblings and my older sibling as a vessel to bridge my family together. A lot of times it wasn't even my parents bridging the family together. And I'm not even saying that in the way that I hate them, because I don't hate them. I don't despise them. I don't even despise my mom, even though my own mother didn't even speak to me. My biological mother, who I'd never met before, didn't even speak to me at the funeral. I don't despise her. I don't despise her. And I don't know why, but I just don't despise her. And I just remember, like, I'm proud of myself for even showing forth, because a lot of times it's not going to be the adults that's going to be able to have the boldness and the courage to say, you know what? I was wrong. I should have worked on that relationship. A lot of times it's going to be the kids. It's going to be that understands that, hey, this is not right. We can't keep brushing this under the rug. We can't keep pushing this outside of the door. We got to speak on this. And that's exactly how it was with my siblings that I'm highly appreciative for. But I'm highly appreciative for my biological parents as well, too, because without them, I would have never been here today. I would have never even been able to be here to tell this story. And regardless of what I went through, bro, and I'm not saying this because I want any sympathy, because I can't do nothing with anybody's sympathy, but I'm trying to let y'all understand something. Just because your biological parents are not in your life does not mean that you're not worthy. You have so much purpose. The fact that they made you means everything. You still have purpose. God called you here for a higher calling, and I remind myself that every single time when I'm feeling low, when I feel as though like I'm losing my mind, when I feel as though, okay, what is my purpose? God has a huge calling for me, because I didn't go through all of that for no reason. I didn't go through being left out on porches. I didn't go through being adopted. I didn't go through having to not be in my biological mom's life, or not being able to, missing out on so much of my siblings' life, because I didn't go through all of that for no reason. And I know God has a higher calling for me. And I just look at life like that, man. I look at life like that. And if you're going to have to be the one, if you're watching this and you went through the same thing I went through, bro, don't use that as a way to put yourself in a victim box, but use that to get yourself to the next level, because you are amazing. You have what it takes. You're valuable. And learn to appreciate what you have. If you have a family right now, even if they're not biological, appreciate them. Appreciate your mom. Tell your mom and dad, I love you. Thank you. And even when they say, for what? No, thank you. Learn to appreciate your siblings that's right in front of your face. Learn to appreciate the people that's right in front of your face, because you may not have that all the time. But while you have it, be appreciative of what you have, because you never know. And when the time may be up for you or for them, and that regret of living with, I wish I would have had that. I wish I would have tried to ignite that relationship. I wish I would have tried to work on this thing with this parent, or just try to appreciate the people that I have now. That regret gonna eat you up so bad. So appreciate what you have, and I just want to encourage anybody watching this to understand that even if you have a similar story, or even if you don't, to be encouraged, to understand that you always have purpose. And I move with that today. That man has made me into the woman that I am today. I am strong. A lot of people don't even know what I've been through. They don't know what I mentally was going through. They don't know what I overcame. They don't know what I had to go through to get to what I am today. But my story, my testimony is what made who I am today. And I'm so thankful, because without God, I would have never been able to do any of it. Old me would have never been able to show up to a funeral where my biological mom was at and just have to understand and take the fact that she didn't speak to me, that she didn't want to have nothing to do with me, that she didn't want a relationship with me. But I also look at it in a way that maybe God was saving me from something. Maybe God was protecting me from something. And even if my siblings had to go through different things with her and endure her pain and endure all the things that she calls upon them, they didn't deserve that. They did not deserve that. But my siblings are beasts. And I'm appreciative of them. I'm appreciative of how far they came. I'm appreciative that they had the boldness and the courage to be able to reach out and mend that relationship with me, because that wasn't a responsibility, but they did it anyway. That's humility. That's courage. That's love. And I'm appreciative of that. And like I said, man, smile, because God gave you purpose in each and every day that you live. Remind yourself of that.